Mamshich and Kufim Dalet. I want to go some detail on Sif Gimel because that's a yesod for the Sifim Gimel through Yud Gimel, which is the next section of Siman Kufim Dalet. I know people already learned Sif Gimel through Yud Gimel. Many people did it already. So here we're going to deal with discussing opening a window or a door in front of the chatzar of your friend, changing the location, etc. Sif Gimel opens up at Lo yiftach adam Chalon lechatzar chaver. Don't open a window into your friend's chatzar. Why? Hizakriyah. What is the Hizakriyah? We discussed it in the past, but what exactly defines Hizakriyah? The Ramban and the Gemara brings three reasons. First of all, Ayin Hara. Second of all, Lashon Hara. Because Lashon Hara is also to yourself. You're going to see what's going on in the other person's chatzar, and you find out what's going on over there. So it's like Lashon Hara, just like you would repeat it to somebody else. Also, if you do it to yourself, that's how the halachas ketanis chelik aleph siman reish ayin vav explains. Third one is tznius. The smeh sifkot and daled in shin ayin ches, not here, when it discusses about looking at the field of your friend, seems to bring a different reason. It's not because of the actual re'iyah. That means it's not ayin hara, it's not lashon hara, but because you're causing damage to your friend. What damage are you causing to your friend? That now, two things. First of all, he's embarrassed to do what he used to do before in the chatzar. Therefore, you're preventing him from his use of what he used to do. Second of all, shayla v'sagas gvul. If a person is in the other field, in the other chatzar, and that's where he does his business, he's worried you're going to see what he's doing over there. And he's going to say, oh, you're going to be masig my gvul, and you're going to copy what I'm doing, and you're going to destroy my business. In other words, it's essentially,
By a business or by a house?
No, by a house. Do things over there, masig gvul. But that's why, according to the smell, again, by a chanus, you have the same problem. But according to this logic of the smell and Shinai Ches, you have a big problem throughout a lot more halachas between here and Shinai Ches. Because if the element of asagas gvul comes into play, then you have a big problem. Because then you can't open in front of a chanus, etc. But the fact that the person is embarrassed to do it. So, what does it mean the person is embarrassed to do it? So according to the Ramban, if you want to define these three, they're all not financial damages. Tznius is a isur, because we learned from Balak, from Bilam. Ayin hara and lashon hara is a shaylev, that's a hezek mamoini. It's a spiritual hezek, According to the Smeh, it's a physical, financial hezek. I used to be able to use this space. Now I can't use this space anymore. The Ramban says three reasons. Sneeze, The Alter Rebbe in Hilches Niskei Moment Seifim Yud Aleph through Yud Gimel, where he summarizes pretty much most of the Siman and Shinayin Ches. Alter Rebbe Niskei Moment Seifim Yud Aleph Yud Beis Yud Gimel writes as follows, and seems pretty much to take the approach of the Ramban with half of the approach of the Smeh. In Seif Yud Aleph, he brings what it says in Shinayin Ches. You can't watch your friend's field when it's Emedas Bekamasa, when everything is there, because of Ayin Hara. Then he says you can't look into the other person's businesses. And before we get to business, sorry. And in parentheses it says, you can't even look at your friend if it's going to be an issue of Ayin Hara. So Ayin Hara is there, in Alter Rebbe. Then he says, even looking at the person. If you think continues, even if it's business, you're not supposed to look into his business because he doesn't want you to know what's going on in his business. Doesn't say because of asagas gvul. It says you don't know what's. He doesn't want you to find out how he runs is his business. The same thing at the end of the Sa'if. The Alter Rebbe says, "Vein tzarich loymar she'osa listakel lechotzer chavera lilos ba'asokov." To look in his business, vein tzarich loymar beveiso shelo midai to yiratzoinoi without his permission. Va'afilu roye v'shoisek loy shema mizbayesh loymar loy. Even if he sees and he doesn't say anything, maybe he's embarrassed of it. And this is stricter than the shitta of the Rashba, which we're going to see later, that if it's that Mechila does work in Pesach Neged Pesach. When the Sifyut Beis, Alter Rebbe says, therefore, it's also to open up a Pesach, a Chalon Neged Chalon, a Pesach Neged Pesach, and then Alter Rebbe says, even if both agree, Yesh Oisrim she'ein zu midas tznius. Some people are Oiser because of the issue of tznius. So far we have the first reason of the Ramban, Ein Hara. The third reason of the Ramban of tznius. And a new reason, which is somewhat similar to the Smeh, the person doesn't want you to know what he's doing, not that he's embarrassed, as of yet. And Alter Rebbe says about this, and even as the Reshus Harabim between them, still Shnei Misratzim, it's still Yesh Oisrim. Yud Gimel. Then over here, Yesh Oimrim, he brings the Ramah, the end of the Ramah. Yesh Nizor Milamud Keneged Pesach. You have to be careful from standing against the door of your friend or his Chatzar to stand over there. Leida Iske Chaveiroi, to find out what his friend's business is. Why? So he shouldn't be Choshed him Shemiskavein Leida Asokov. That his idea is to know what's going on over there. Now, Alter Rebbe doesn't mention Bichlal, the issue of Hasagas Gvul. Alter Rebbe also, to be double check, but he doesn't say the reason of the smeh, that it's because he's going to be embarrassed of him. So the Alter Rebbe looks at it from a more of a person to person, not a financial.
That says you might copy business.
Might copy his business. It's not mentioned in Alter Rebbe. Smeh also says that because maybe he's going to be embarrassed of doing his work with it. Alter Rebbe doesn't mention that either. Alter Rebbe doesn't mention the shittas of smeh bichlal, only the shittas of the Ramban, and Alter Rebbe brings a new thing which is similar to the smeh, but it's not mamish, that he doesn't want you to know what's going on in his field. So Hezek Re'iyah, we have essentially 6 reasons. We have the 3 of the Ramban, Ein Hara, Lashon Hara, Tznius. We have the 2 of the smeh, that he's going to be embarrassed to do what he wants to do over there, and the second reason is because of Hasagas Gvul. And the 6th reason, what Alter Rebbe introduces, that the person doesn't want you to know what's going on in his sink, to know how he's running his businesses, his operations in his chatzar. What's an afkamina between all these reasons? Very simple. If there's a hezek, financial hezek, you might have a claim, financial claim in Bezdin. Go to Bezdin and have an argument about it. According to the smeh, there's a financial element over here of damage. You're causing him loss of usage of his property, which might be a claim in Bezdin. You're causing him Hasagas Gvul, which is a claim in Bezdin. Hasagas Gvul is a whole different ballgame, what is considered Hasagas Gvul and what is not, but the element is there. According to the Ramban and the reason of the Alter Rebbe, it's nothing to do, there's no financial hezek over here. So technically you can't claim financial hezekis from it. What my nafkamina, we're soon going to get towards the end. By the end of the show, you're going to see another big nafkamina regarding between these two opinions.
What's the first one?
Huh?
You can't claim court if it's not a financial thing?
No, you can't collect money if it's not a financial thing. You could always go to Bezdin, but you can't collect. Could you collect on such a hezek? When it's a hezek which is not financial, the most you can do is get Bezdin to paskin that he has to stop the hezek. When it's a financial claim, you could actually walk out with some money. So that is the difference between the two. Kesef HaKodshim, the Buchacha, which is in the back of the Shulchan Aruch, back of your prints, he writes that if it's chotzer against Pesach chotzer against another chotzer, or a barn against a barn, there's no problem. Since there's no tashmishim kvuim of tznius, then the chayra, there's no issue. Not according to the ones that hold that it's medin isur, that's the isur mitzad tznius, and not according to those that hold, not according to the ones that hold that it's isur to do it, not according to the ones that hold that it's because of kfeda. However, say according to the Alter Rebbe and say according to the Smer, you still have a problem with chotzer. You might still have a problem with chotzer neged chotzer, because he might say, I'm embarrassed to do what I used to, not to. So he might say, according to the Smer, with a sagas gvul, and according to the Alter Rebbe, it's at the fact that he's going to know, he doesn't want you to know what's going on in his field. Right? It happens to be that the Rivosh says in סימן Tes that the opening against a Pesach Chotzer against a Pesach Chotzer is also and if you follow the Rivosh, that fits with what we just explained according to Alter Rebbe and according to Smer, that you could be ma'akev in such a scenario. The Mechaber continues that if the one shutef could block the one person could block the other person from opening up the window or the door, and if he opens, he should close it. Right? Now, if it opens, he should close it. Can come a Lubavitcher Chassid or another person who's worried about Savas Rabbi Yehuda Chassid. He's going to tell you, I opened the window already. What am I going to do now? I can't close the window. Sakana. You want to put me mela, so this, but hey, you're putting me in danger of life. So for that, there's a letter from the Rebbe, and you get his Dalid Taf Kuf Samach Aleph, which brings from the Tzemach Tzedek, that the way you do it is you close the whole thing, but you leave a pipe, which is a tefach and a half diameter, and the tefach and a half diameter is from the Frierdiker Rebbe, but the pipe is from the Tzemach Tzedek. And then afterwards, after you leave that, you close the whole window and you leave that pipe, and then afterwards you close the two sides of the pipe. Toch betit, the Alter Rebbe that the Rebbe brings over there, or the Frierdiker Rebbe writes you put a blech on both sides. So that time that falls by the wayside. So if somebody tells you I can't close it with Pesach because of this reason, I'll pick Kabbalah, Rabbi Yehuda Chassid, tell him there's a solution for it. Also, it's not enough of a reason to say, oh, I opened the window, I have a right to keep it open because I thought you're going to put me in sakana. Now, when a person opens up to the back of his I'm going to get to this later, to the whole Movoi versus Chotzer. Anyways, just to point out over here something very interesting, that Rabbi Akiva Eger writes one line over here, and he writes from the Maharik Astra in the name of the Ra'am, the Maharik in the name Marikash in the name of the Ra'am, Hezek Shmiya Loi Shamanu D'Shmei Hezek. So you always think about the pun in Loi Shamanu, but Hezek Shmiya, if a person says, I don't want you put the wall up between us, and the wall is too thin, and you could hear what's going on outside, or fakert. That's not enough of a reason. Hezek Shmiya is not considered a hezek. Lo shamanu dehave hezek. Now the Shulchan Aruch says echod mehashutfim.
According to all of these, you can hear it.
Only according to the Smer, and according to Alter Rebbe, not according to the Ramban. There's no ein hara if you don't see it. Lashon hara maybe. But Hezek Shmiya Lo Shamanu, he says. I don't know exactly. Depends what you do on the other side of the wall. Maybe Shiloh of Tznius. Well, the Poyo says Hezek Shmiya Lo Shamanu. be careful what you do on the other side. Now, why the Shulchan Aruch says afilu echad ma'ashutfim? Ma'akival of shutfim. Why? Because by a shutf, the Smer right away explains to you, very simple. By a shutf, because a shutf is a right in the chotzer, so he's going to say, one could say, mine have come in, I have the chotzer here. I always walk into the chotzer. I always see what's going on in the chotzer. So what difference does it make if now I have put the chotzer, or if I open the window to the chotzer, or I'm hanging out in the chotzer? So the answer the Smer brings, no. By a chotzer, you could tell him, by a chotzer, I know when you're in the chotzer, I don't do certain things. When you're not in the chotzer, I do certain things. But now that you open the window to the chotzer, I have 24/7 you watching me from the window. So I have a problem of you being present at the over there the whole time, and you're creating a hezek that I didn't have until now. And that's why he could be ma'akev. That's why he says afilu shutef, even a shutef, because of a shutef we would think otherwise. But the answer is no. By a shutef also, just because you have a right to hang out in the chotzer with him and see what he's doing in the chotzer, doesn't mean you have a right to open the window and be able to continue doing in the window. Then the Rama brings out that Pesach against the Pesach, chazaka does not help at all. But Chalon against the Chalon, according to one shit, chazaka does help. And the Smer explains what the reason behind this machlekes is about the window. He says because if you say it's mitam isur, because it's tznius, then it's a isur. You opened the Chalon be'isur, it remains be'isur. Mechila is not going to, a chazaka is not going to change the isur, and therefore you still have to close it. But according to the Yeshayimrim, by a Chalon is within kfeda. So if a person shows that he's not makpid, that the Chalon is there, and he was machzik, then it's not a problem. Now, by the way, regardless, you see in Sif Zayin, you're not allowed to stand and look. That's a whole different ball game. But according to this opinion, it depends on the kfeda. It happens to be that Ramah was not machriya about Chalon neged Chalon. If there's a chazaka, there's no chazaka. If you look in the Kesef HaKodshim over here, he writes that there's no hachra if chazaka works for Chalon neged Chalon or not, and therefore yochel limchois misafek bifrat shehu drora de isura. It doesn't say mamayna, which would fit with the Sagas Gvul thing, but drora de isura, it's a safek isur, and therefore, because there's no achra by the Ramah, there's a safek the chumra, and the person has a right to be moicha, and he could block him from doing it if he decides to do it. Huh? Even if he was machzik, he could still come and obviously if he's not machzik, no shaila. It's only if he's machzik. The Kesef HaKodshim. This is the Butchacha, same as the Eish Lavram. Now, if the Shutfim give Rishus to one to open a Chalon or a Delis or a Pesach, Shulchan Aruch says you're allowed to. Now, obviously, it doesn't mean that you're allowed to open up one across from another. The Isser is still there. It just means that you're allowed to open, but not across from the other. And the Mechaber clearly writes it can't be mechuven directly one against another. What's the reason for directly one against another? If it's not directly one against another, it's mutter. If I have one window that's here, but the other window is a little bit offset, what's the problem? So the Kesef HaKodshim says that if you look Re'iyah be'ikum, if you have to tilt your head to be able to see, then it's not a problem. The Hezek doesn't count. Hezek is only direct view. And therefore, the Kesef HaKodshim comes and says that if I open up a window that's higher than the other person, it's still awesome, even though it's not directly one against another. If the windows are against each other, but one is just higher than the other one, it's still awesome, because I can stand by my window and I could look down without tilting my head. And the Chayra, according to Kesef HaKodshim, if you make it lower than the other person, you have to pick your head up, then it's mutter. Because the ikum tal yumilsa, they cooked those from the Kesef HaKodshim. That's the reason.
Not just the people, you also have to
you have to pick up your head and look When it's above, you have to pick up your head. When it's sideways, you have to pick up your head. When it's downwards, you just stand by the window and you have a direct line of view. Even though you just have to lower your eyes a bit. That's not enough, according to the Kesef HaKodshim, to be able to change it. So the Chalon against Chalon. Now, it happens to be that the Kesef HaKodshim leaves it in Tzarech La'ayin Oid, Tzarech Iyun, Tzarech La'iyun Oid, or whatever, however you look at the Rosh Tevis, but it's a tzarech. He leaves it. He's not clear that one higher than the other one is asur, but he's noted to say that it's asur. But the Reshus Harabim, you could open. If there's a Reshus Harabim, if I'm on one side of the Reshus Harabim and the person's on the other side of the Reshus Harabim, that's not a problem, because you could say, I am the same as Ben Reshus Harabim to you. You have your windows open to Reshus Harabim. People walk up and down the block the whole time, and they can peek into your windows. So what difference is there if it's me or it's somebody else? Same thing. However, if the window is bigger than Daled Amis, then that's already more of a hezek. Because when it's below Daled Amis, people with Reshus Harabim could look into it. If it's above Daled Amis, you could say, well, certain things I'm only doing. I only do certain things. I only do higher up in my house, because I know people can't see when it's higher up. According to that, l'cha'ira, and this is something which is important to point out. If a person has if it's a dark street, and a person has windows, but the windows are dark. So at night you go, it's a street where nobody walks by at night. So at that point in time, there's no more hezek from Neder Reshus Harabim. So if you're there, even if you have Reshus during the daytime, it might be usher to have the windows open at night when the person is comfortable, that he could sit on the couch with his gatkas. But there's not, because there's nobody looking, there's nobody on the street at that point in time at night.
Weren't people falling on the streets at night?
Huh?
The time of the Gemara, no one would think on the streets at night, no?
What's Ragla Talmudoi? Those people after it says also.
Half an hour.
Okay, I'm saying, but there's still something there. If it's today is different. If the street is lit up, you could say at night is not is still the same as during the day. Over there, the Mechaber continues regarding a mavoi. If there is 3 houses, yes, that's like Reshus Harabim. Obviously, we're talking about a mavoi which is not mefulish. A mavoi mefulish is obviously like Reshus Harabim. He's talking about a mavoi she'eina mefulish, then that yeshayimrim that's like Reshus Harabim. And yeshayimrim that any non-mefulish is not like Reshus Harabim, even if it has more than 3 houses, because people don't commonly go through it, only the people who go into it, and therefore it might be considered similar to a chotzer, not really a mavoi. And the Bach paskins clearly that it's a mavoi eina mefulish. Any mavoi she'eina mefulish is like a Reshus HaYachid, and it is always awesome. But from here we see there's something interesting, that not every chotzer, not every mavoi is mamash a mavoi or a chotzer. This is also something Chazerevin. There's different. You have to look at every place. You have to look at every place independently. If you look in the Darkei Moshe, the Darkei Moshe also brings Darkei Moshe in the beginning of the Siman. Brings the name of Mukhi Yosef, that in a chotzer people are makpid one another. In a mavoi they're not makpid. But obviously he's talking about a mavoi mefulish. Why is that? Because in the mavoi, there's certain tashmishim, you learned in the Hilchos Eruvin, certain tashmishim that are tashmishit tznius are more common in the chotzer and less common in the mavoi. So therefore, the logic would apply that if it's a place where tashmishit tznius occur, it's different than a place where tashmishit tznius will not occur. Where would you look at it if you want to look at a chotzer of one person? Yeah, just a person. The backyard is different than the front yard. And a backyard that has walls on 2 sides, people do more tashmishit tznius over there than in the front yard, which is open to the street. and if it's in a backyard and there's a gate which is visible from one to another, again there's no shaila of Hezekiah. If you, let's say, you have the gate over there already and you just take down the gate, that's the shaila, just people walking through, but the Hezekiah is still there. Mashenkin, if it's opening a window, he could say, well, the Chatzar, I knew that you don't have windows facing the Chatzar, so as long as I knew that if you weren't in the Chatzar, I went swimming in my backyard. But if you are in the Chatzar, then I'm not going to go swimming. But now you open the windows, I can never go swimming. So I can't do any more Tashmish Tznius in the Chatzar, so I have a problem. But that each one is independent of its own. You have to look at each case independently. Sometimes you can have a mava which is a chatzar, sometimes you can have a chatzar which is a mava, sometimes you can have a mava which ain't a mefulish, a mava which is mefulish. Depending on the situation, you can't make global rules to asser everything or to be matter everything. For that specific reason, I just want to point out that if somebody does open windows to the chatzar, but the windows he puts over there is only for the purpose of sunshine coming in, so they have these kinds of glass that they put like little squares of glass that could bring sunlight in, but you can't see anything through them. It's the same thing as not opening a window. That means you can't be me'akev somebody from putting a window in his facing the backyard, where the window, facing the neighbor's backyard, where the window is in a way that you can't see anything from inside. I think you know what I'm talking about. There's like these little squares that are glass, they let the sunshine in, but you can't see anything through them. Huh?
The glass is
Glass on Kodesh is not a window, just a light behind it.
Yeah, theoretically.
Huh?
That kind of glass.
Theoretically, yeah, but that you could peel off. You could say, well, now you have now you have it on, but afterwards you're not going to. Afterwards you're going to remove it, and I'm not comfortable with you doing it. Okay. Now, what is the chazaka over here? So the Mechaber, the Ramos says hechzik v'pesach. There's no chazaka pesach like pesach. By Chalon you get Chalon Yeshem. There is a chazaka. What is the chazaka that we're talking about over here? So if in the Rashba it says that he realized that there's a hezek and he was quiet. Come the drisha and the prisha, and he asks a question. How does that work according to the Rashba? The Rashba is the one that holds you need gimel shanim. So how does it work with Hekir Benisko? Hekir Benisko is not the same as Gimel Shanim. So the Chazon Ish answers that the difference is, by another one, he could say, I saw the dripping water in the Chagamein, that I'll be able to handle it, and I realize there's much more dripping water, or whatever it is. Over here, you can't say that taine, you have to wait 3 years because of that, because he said, I thought I might be able to handle it, and I realized I can't handle it. No, the moment you have a window opening up to you, you know exactly what the hezek is, you don't need 3 years. The Ramah, the Mechaber continues over here, that still you can't open up a chanus against the door or the window of your friend, because it's a hezek kavod tmidi. It's a standard. It's a hezek which is the whole time, and it's established there. Why is it? Because by Rishus Harabim, people walk back and forth. Sometimes people do look, sometimes people don't look. But if I open up a store in front of your chatzar, how would it, in the olden days, what was a store? You would sit in the entrance to the store, and you'd welcome people into the store. And therefore, you're sitting in front of my chatzar 24 to the whole day, all the waking hours. So there's no more. It's more hezek than the Rishus Harabim. According to that, l'chayre terech, opening up a chanus would not be such a problem, because nobody sits outside the store and the chanus welcoming the people in. You just walk into the store, get whatever they want, they pay, and they walk out. There's not anymore that you have the people sitting in front. So this din of chanus will not apply today. But what happens if you do build something which Aruch HaShulchan mentions is not specifically chanus, but any form of thing that you create where you sit outside and you greet people. What about opening up a shul, opening up a mikveh, all these kinds of things? There's a lot of people there. So if you look in Siman Kuf Nun Vav Sa'if Gimel, there's anything of mitzvah There's no, you can't be ma'akav the other person. When we're going to get to Kuf Nevav, we're going to discuss it over there. There's a whole big machlekes achreinim. If that's only something, if it's only a person from the same chatzar, if it's only a person that's if it's something which can't be moved elsewhere, etc., etc. Just to point out something interesting, it's somewhat connected to Hezekiah. There's minus from the Rebbe about building mikvahs for women. And when it's in the same building as a boys' school, when it's in the same building as a shul, it was very makpid that the entrance should not be from the same side, the same floor as the shul, or from the same side as the men's going in. So, as a Hezekiah, whatever the reason is, but there was, even though it's a shul, and even though it's a mitzvah, everything, the Rebbe still wanted, and there's a mikveh in Rogers, that the Rebbe, when they built it, the Rebbe said they should put the door on one side of the corner and the shul from the other side, from the different sides of the street, shouldn't be coming in from the same place. In Australia, when they wanted to build a mikveh, the Rebbe said that the entrance should be from a different side, so they shouldn't be able to see what it is, even though it's in Yishol Mitzvah and there's no shaila of Hezekiah. Now, Lemaise, we see today, and this is what I want to conclude with, that people build buildings in cities like New York, which is packed with houses, and there's no Hezekiah maybe in the backyard. In the front, there's no, everybody opens Pesach, Neget Pesach, Chalon, Neget Chalon, all the houses you could see from one to another. If both shades are open, you can see straight across the street, if it's a small street, etc. So, what is the search for? Somebody, if you buy a house which is already existing, is one thing. The other person buys a house which is already existing, you can't force a person to close it. But what happens beforehand? If you build a house, if I knock down a house and I want to build a house, I'll build a house with windows. Am I allowed to build a house with windows across? The minhag is that you build whatever you're allowed to build. Why is that mutar? Huh? You could see Union Street. You could see from one side to another. On President Street, maybe not, because it's wider and the houses are recessed. But the houses are close to each other. You could see straight from one to another. So you could farenfer. First of all, today people don't do tashmish tznius, and just like people don't do tashmish tznius in the mavoi because it's common ground, and just the same way as people in the Rishus Harabim, people don't do, because you have a Rishus Harabim across from each other, because I'm not going to Rishus Harabim to you. And what does that mean? People are used to and are comfortable with the idea that certain things I'm not going to do in the front of my house, because I know there's a house across the street. I'm just not going to do it. So therefore, opening a window across from somebody else's window when there's already windows, all the houses are the same way, it's not a problem. That's one of the reasons that you could do it. However, you have a problem because mechila doesn't work. So if you're going to say that people are meichel each other, it doesn't help you anything. Answer is nothing to do with mechila. Mechila means that be'etzem is wrong. And I agree to be meichel, and that is a machlekes when mechila works, and mechila doesn't work. And Alter Rebbe says, bechlal, if a person lets you, maybe he's embarrassed to tell you. But here we're not talking about mechila. Here we're talking about milchatchila daita dehachi. You bought a house in New York with the understanding that that's how things work in New York. That's the minhag, and that's the minhag amokaim. And there's a Ráaya for it is the maharitatz, Siman nun gimel. That if you're marchik your window, and the minhag in the city is to marchik the window, if the minhag is to marchik the windows and still you could see through it, then it's mutter, because that's the minhag here, and that's how people were mekabel. Second thing is, b'derech klal, it's not mechuven mamish one window against the other. The houses are never mechuven, or the windows of a house not mechuven against each other. Shevet HaLevi, who was a Rav in Bnei Brak, and Bnei Brak is similar to Brooklyn in the way the houses are packed next to each other. And Chelik Yud Siman Reisha in Beis is asked the question, how could you build on such a thing? And the Shevet HaLevi comes with a very interesting gedank. He says, the people, when they build, he doesn't say Bnei Brak, but in a sense referring to it, people mechatchila build an understanding that Hezek Re'iyeh the general Hezek Re'iyah is not applicable because people know Isur Istakos. People know you're not allowed to stand by the window and look. That's even if it's Moichel and everything else. People know you're not supposed to stand and look. People know you're not supposed to stand and look. He's relying on it. You're not going to stand and look. The window is there. There's no Hezek Re'iyah because the person is not going to actually go stand and look. But to build the windows is not a problem. And therefore, the people in the city are Moichel Mikar one to another. And that's what the Mamash, the Ramah continues and says, that you're not allowed to look, not allowed to stand there. Not allowed to look in, but not allowed to stand there, because people might think that you're going to, that your intention is to look. And Alter Rebbe, like I said, brings it lahalacha. He says, Alter Rebbe says it's Yeshemrim, but Alter Rebbe brings it in Shulchan Aruch, and only as the day of Yeshemrim, doesn't say Yeshemrim Farket. So that's the halacha. I want to conclude with the.
Today's windows, right? The older windows.
The older windows was no glass.
Today,
Also window shades. Then, so there's actually, I forgot who it was, one of the Achrayim, recently, I'm talking about 100 years ago, that says that if you have, that when you have glass, it's already less of a Hezekriya. But if somebody wants now to make a sunroom, so to speak, wants to take out the glass in the front of his house and like create a room where there's fresh air coming in, that's also. Because even though there was Mekabel on windows, they were not Mekabel on no windows. Just an open, just in a Chalon, that's an open thing without any windows over there. That they were not Mekabel. I want to conclude.
Everyone opens the windows once in a while.
Yeah, but you have nets, and it's not so clear to see from one to another. I want to conclude with the Pischei Tshuva. I only have 2 minutes left. Sifkot and Ches. He brings in the Shalos Tshuvas Maharal Bach, Siman Mem Daled. Somebody who has a beautiful view outside his house, and somebody else wants to build a wall. So he said, he wants to be ma'akevim. Maharal Bach says you cannot be ma'akevim because Menias Re'iyah is not Hezek Re'iyah. Just me preventing you from having a beautiful view out your window is not Hezek Re'iyah. And the Divrei Goinim brings the same thing in the name of the Tumas Yeshorim Siman Kuf Nun Tes. So you have the Maharal Bach Siman Mem Daled and Tumas Yeshorim Siman Kuf Nun Tes, that preventing somebody from looking, from having a beautiful view is not enough of a reason for Hezek Re'iyah. But the Marsham and Chele Gimel Siman Shin Ayin Vav is medayek from the Shas Tshuvas and Mabit Chele Kalev Siman Shin Chav Gimel that you could be ma'akev. He says you could be ma'akev on such a thing. That is considered a hezek. Maybe not hezek re'iyah per se, but a hezek. And the Marasham says, if the guy already built, and he could say kimli like the Maharal Bach and the Tumas Yesharim. If somebody has beautiful views out of his window, and next to his house was a house. Now someone comes, and then he has also a roof, and from the roof he's able to see Manhattan, and then someone comes and puts up a building next to his house, 2 floors higher than his house, or his building. So now he can't see anything anymore. All he sees is a wall. So could he have a taina or not? So according to Maharal Bach, there's no taina l'chatchila. According to the Marasham, he can be ma'akevim before he starts, but after he builds already, he could say, Kimi like the Maharal Bach. What happens if because of that, the value of my house went down? The only reason why I had such a beautiful, the only reason why my penthouse or my apartment on the 6th floor was worth $2 million is because I had direct view to the sea. Now that the property behind me got purchased, my house doesn't look anymore into the sea. It looks into a wall of bricks. So my house is not worth $2 million anymore. I can't sell it as a seafront property. I can't sell it as a views of Manhattan on the right and views of the Bronx on the left when it's beautiful. You can't see the fireworks in Manhattan when you're standing on your roof anymore. So it's a hezek. Can't sell it for $2 million anymore. I can sell it only for $1 million. Is that considered a hezek or not? I'm not sure what the answer is to this. But there is a mokim to say that even the Maharal Bach would be machmir. In such chain is a mokim sefaket that the Maharal Bach would still be mekel because there's a mashmos from Shas Tshuvos of the Rosh that I have to find that such a hezek is not really considered a full hezek. But for me, I'm not clear on that, and therefore don't use what I said in the shir as an implication for anything that's happening.